The ballroom glowed with warm lights, laughter echoing off the walls as music flowed freely through the air. Dresses shimmered, shoes tapped in rhythm, and joy seemed to belong to everyone present. Everyone, except her. She sat slightly away from the dance floor, her wheelchair positioned near the edge like an afterthought. From there, she could see everything clearly: couples spinning, friends cheering, hands reaching for one another without hesitation. No one reached for her. People passed by with quick glances, some filled with pity, others with discomfort, but none stopped. It was as if an invisible wall surrounded her, keeping her separate from the celebration. She wore a dress she had spent hours choosing. The fabric was soft, the color perfect. In the mirror earlier, she had smiled, imagining how tonight might be different. But now, that smile faded. The room was full, yet she had never felt more alone. The music grew louder, then softer, changing tempo as dancers moved effortlessly. Her fingers tightened slightly in her lap, tracing the beat she couldn't follow with her feet. Dancing had once been her favorite thing. Before the accident, she remembered spinning until she was dizzy, laughing without fear. After that day, everything changed. Dreams were packed away, replaced with careful routines and lowered expectations. Around her, conversations buzzed. Someone laughed too loudly. Someone else clapped as a couple attempted a dramatic spin. No one noticed the way her eyes followed the movement, or how her breath caught each time the music swelled. She wasn't jealous, she was grieving. Grieving a version of herself the world seemed to have forgotten. A slow song began. The lights dimmed slightly. Couples paired off, hands linking naturally, like it was the easiest thing in the world. She looked down, adjusting the edge of her dress, pretending she didn't mind. Pretending she wasn't hoping. Inside, a quiet thought echoed, one she never spoke out loud: what if someone saw me? Not the chair, not the past, just me. She shifted slightly, preparing herself for another song, another reminder. This was how it always went. She watched. Others danced. Life moved on. But just as she accepted that tonight would be no different, the music hesitated for a brief moment, almost like it was holding its breath. And so was she. She didn't know it yet, but this was the last moment she would ever feel invisible. The music slowed, its melody stretching softly across the room like a question left unanswered. Conversations faded as couples drifted closer together, preparing for another graceful moment on the dance floor. She remained where she was, hands folded, eyes lowered, already bracing herself for the familiar ache of being left behind. Then something unexpected happened. A single chair scraped lightly against the floor. It was a small sound, almost unnoticeable, but it carried weight. A man stood up from the far side of the room. He didn't rush. He didn't look around for approval. He simply began walking forward, straight through the open space of the dance floor. Heads turned. Whispers followed him like shadows. People paused mid-laugh, unsure of what they were witnessing. This wasn't part of the plan. This wasn't rehearsed. The music softened, as if even it was confused. She noticed him then. At first, she assumed he would pass by. People always did, but he didn't. He stopped directly in front of her. The lights reflected in his calm eyes, not pity, not curiosity, but certainty. For a heartbeat, the entire room seemed to disappear. He gently held out his hand. The world felt too quiet. Her breath caught. No one had ever asked her this before, not like this, not in front of everyone. Doubt rushed in quickly. Is this real? Is this a joke? Her fingers trembled slightly as she looked from his hand to his face. There was no hesitation there. Only respect. Slowly, she placed her hand in his. The music returned, low and emotional, filling the space between them. He didn't try to move her chair. He didn't try to fix anything. Instead, he adapted, guiding her hands, swaying beside her, letting the rhythm connect them. Their movements were simple, imperfect, and deeply human. The room changed. Phones lowered. Conversations stopped. Some people pressed hands to their mouths. Others felt tears rise unexpectedly. This wasn't just a dance, it was a statement. A quiet rebellion against everything people assumed was impossible. She felt something loosen inside her chest. For the first time in years, she wasn't watching life happen, she was part of it. The music wrapped around her like a promise she had waited too long to hear. As they moved together, she lifted her head. Her smile was small at first, then fearless. In that moment, she wasn't defined by limits or silence. She was seen, and the room would never forget what it witnessed next. As the final notes of the song drifted into silence, no one moved. It was as if the entire room had forgotten how. Then, slowly, one pair of hands began to clap. Another followed. Within seconds, the quiet exploded into applause, deep, powerful, and unrestrained. This was not the polite kind offered out of habit. This applause carried emotion, understanding, and awe. She felt it wash over her like warmth. Her eyes glistened as she looked around, finally meeting the gazes of people who had once looked past her. Faces that were once distracted now held admiration. Some smiled through tears, others nodded, as if acknowledging something they had just learned about themselves. For the first time that night, and perhaps the first time in a long while, she did not feel small. The man released her hand gently, giving a respectful nod before stepping back into the crowd. He didn't wait for praise. He didn't seek attention. What he had done was enough. What it had meant would last far beyond this room. She sat there, heart racing, chest full, trying to understand what had just happened. That single dance had done something years of silence never could. It reminded her of who she was before the world told her what she couldn't be. She hadn't stood up, she hadn't walked, but she had risen in a way that mattered far more. People began approaching her. Some apologized softly, others thanked her, for reminding them, for opening their eyes. She listened, overwhelmed, but something inside her had already shifted. The invisible wall she had felt for so long was gone. In the days that followed, the moment spread beyond that hall. Videos were shared, messages arrived from strangers across the world. They spoke of courage, inclusion, and hope. But what mattered most wasn't the attention, it was the change within her. She no longer waited quietly at the edges of life. She began speaking up, advocating for spaces where no one would be overlooked. She embraced art, music, and movement in new ways, redefining what dance could look like. Her confidence grew, not because the world changed overnight, but because she had. That unexpected dance became a turning point, a line between who she was before and who she chose to become. No one expected that moment to change her life. But sometimes, all it takes is one brave step from a stranger. To help someone finally step into their own light.